Hello again. In today's video, I would like to talk to you about why adults are better than children at learning foreign languages. Yes, you heard that right. Why adults are better than children at learning foreign languages. Now, in my previous video, I had brought up the topic and I had posed the question, are children really better than adults at learning foreign languages? Because that's what seems that everybody on the streets believes. I hear this all the time. Oh, that children are so much better than adults at learning foreign languages. But in that video, I argued that that's just not true. And if this discussion interests you, then I would highly recommend that you check the video out in the link in the description below. But I basically said, no, it's not that children are better at learning foreign languages. I said children and adults have the same capacity for learning a foreign language. It just tends to be that children are put in much more advantageous circumstances, which are more conducive to success in learning a foreign language than adults. Particularly in the case that a family migrates to a new country, a child will often be put in a school where they're surrounded by peers and expected to speak the local language all day, whereas adults will be put in a completely different circumstance. They're often in an expat bubble or an office environment where they can't use the local language at all. So I said that this is part of the reason why we believe that children are better at learning foreign languages than adults. And I said, actually, I believe I would expect that if you had a child and an adult put in the exact same circumstance, then the adult would learn the foreign language better. And I had kind of implied in that video that maybe it's because adults would have an easier time learning grammar or working with grammatical terminology. And I don't know why I said that, because that's not really what I meant to say at all. I guess I was just tired when I made that video. So I thought in today's video I would clear this up and tell you really the 5 reasons why I believe adults are actually better than children at learning foreign languages. Of course, this is in theory. These are potential advantages that you should have as an adult over a child in learning a foreign language, but of course it only really matters if you put this into practice. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The first advantage that adults have over children is they're just more focused and they have a better attention span. So, if you can imagine a child and an adult sitting in the same language learning classroom, the adult will simply have more focus, they will be able to pay attention longer, they will be able to figure out what is important, and so on and so forth, much better than a child will be able to. So that's the first one, is you just have a better ability to pay attention and focus. The second advantage you have as an adult over children in learning a foreign language is you just have more knowledge about the world. And so you have many more concepts and paradigms in your brain than a child would. So this means that oftentimes I can just tell you the word for something and you instantly know what it means. You don't also have to learn what the concept is. Now, to give a more concrete example, there are many words like for kind of abstract things, like let's say industry or economy, agriculture, politics, things like this, where if I tell you the word, okay, this is the word in French for economy, then you'll instantly know what that means. Whereas a child maybe doesn't have this concept in their brain yet, so not only do they have to learn the word, they have to learn what does that really mean. They have to build up the concept in their head. So they spend more time on this kind of building up an understanding to something, whereas if you're an adult, you can just learn some words and instantly be able to use them because you already know the concepts they're referring to. Now, of course, this isn't universal because there are many words which are conceptualized completely different in foreign languages than they may be in your native language, but it oftentimes holds true, particularly for upper level vocabulary. That was the second reason. Let's go to the third one. The third one is kind of related, and that is, well, because you have more knowledge of things and more experience in the world as an adult, you can draw relations better and make mnemonic devices and whatnot better. Let's just give a simple example. If you're learning French and you have to learn the word for understand, which in French is comprendre, comprendre, that kind of sounds like comprehend. So if you're an adult, you probably know this word, comprehend, and you can instantly draw the relation there. Oh, comprendre, comprehend, they basically mean the same thing. The words are very similar. All right, I got it, and you will almost instantly remember it. Whereas if a child doesn't have this vocabulary, maybe they don't know the word comprehend because it's a little bit of a higher level vocabulary word, then they won't have that advantage. And of course, that was just one example, but there's a million other examples you could think of. And sometimes it's not necessarily because it's similar to a word in English, but maybe, oh, I saw a movie that had that title, I saw a menu like this, oh, I went to a restaurant one time, and so on and so forth. Oh, there was a song I heard on the radio where I know that word before. Because you have all these extra accumulated experiences as an adult, you can kind of draw these relations, and when you do that, a lot of the words and concepts can become easier, even not just for vocabulary, but maybe for grammar. You can think, oh, that's kind of like that other thing I learned in school, or oh, I studied another language before, and that works in a similar way. So that was the third reason that adults are better than children at learning foreign languages. What is the fourth reason? The fourth thing is adults have more of a willingness to put in hard work and make an effort, particularly when things are tough, or they might seem, to a child, this might seem boring or it's too arduous, so they might want to give up easily. For example, if you're doing some kind of practice like listening and repeating, it can be very tiring, it can be very difficult. So a child might think, oh, I don't want to do this, I hate this is boring. Whereas an adult, you can think, well, this is hard, but if I can work through this, then it will be so much, it will have so much benefit to me in the long run. So adults are better at making these kind of sacrifices and kind of hanging in there. I guess you're having more perseverance and more dedication to this kind of learning process, which at times can be challenging. Of course, learning a foreign language should never be torturous, but sometimes it can be difficult, it can be uncomfortable, you have to go outside of your comfort zone. And as an adult, if you can kind of put in the extra work, you can get farther and more quickly than a child who will maybe give up after 5 minutes. Okay, that was the fourth. And what is the final, the fifth? The fifth advantage that adults have over children when it comes to learning a foreign language is that actually, as an adult, you already know all the things that you need to know to communicate in theory. That is to say, you probably already have an idea of what you need to talk about, of the things that are important to you. So you have the ability to direct your learning exactly to the things that you know that you will need to talk about. Now, I listed this as the fifth advantage that adults have over children because I find that this is something that I have seen adult learners struggle with the most. And I don't think it's because they're incapable of it. I believe it's because they refuse to do it at all. So as I said at the beginning, all of these advantages only really apply if you put them into practice, if you're willing to make the full use of them. Now, what do I really mean is that by the adults already know everything that they need to know, or they can conceive of what they need to learn in a foreign language? Well, what I mean is when you have this life experience, so that you're aware of these interactions that you want to have. For example, oh, when I meet a new person, I'll want to introduce myself. Okay, I will need to use a proper greeting. I will want to say, how do you do? Nice to meet you. I want to ask their profession, and so on and so forth. So if you can conceive of this beforehand, then you know how to direct your learning, right? Because you know, oh, I need to learn how to say all of this stuff. If you are, let's say, you're an engineer, then you will know, oh, I will need to learn how to talk about these topics because this is what I talk about all the time at my job. You can kind of think about all the situations. Oh, when I go to a restaurant, I will need to say this. Oh, when I go to book a hotel, I will need to say this. Oh, when I'm talking to my girlfriend's parents, I will need to say this. And so on and so forth. So you have this ability to use your imagination and conceive of the situations you'll find yourself in because you already have that experience and know typically something about your life, of where you're going to find yourself and what you will want to talk about or what situations you will find yourself in. Whereas a child maybe doesn't have any of that yet. Maybe they don't have the ability to imagine or even know what they should say when they meet a new person. Maybe they don't know what they are going to, what situations they'll find themselves in, or what they'll want to talk about. Of course, you could, in theory, teach a child this, but as an adult, you just generally have the life experience, you have the imagination, you have the creative capacity to really conceive of what it is that you need to learn, what it is that you want to be able to say in your target language, and then direct your learning to this. Because whenever your learning is self-directed, when you're thinking, this is what I really need to say in my target language, this is what I want to say, what are the words for this? When you have that proactive attitude and that self-directed attitude, your foreign language learning will be much more successful. It will just, things will stick in your head more. Versus if you put a child into a language learning classroom and you say, okay, what do you think you want to learn? What kind of situations will you find yourself in? They'll be like, I don't know. And then they'll end up talking about, the colors of the rainbow or zoo animals or something. So, to sum up, adults have many advantages over children when it comes to learning foreign languages. I went over these 5. The 5 are: you have a better attention span, you have more knowledge and more life experiences, so you can draw more associations to things. You have knowledge of concepts, so that you can often instantly learn something instead of having to build up the knowledge of what a word really means before you can use it and understand it. Adults have a willingness to put in hard work and really focus and put in the hard work and persevere when things get more difficult. And finally, you can be a self-directed learner because you have the experience and knowledge to direct your own learning to the things that you already know will be important to you, the situations you will find yourself in, and the things that you will want to know how to say. All right, so that's it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below, and stay tuned on the channel for more content on foreign language learning. Thanks. See you next time.